Have you ever wondered what really happened when Christopher Columbus first stepped onto the shores of the New World in 1492? We all know the story of the three ships, the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. We've heard about how Columbus discovered America. But who did he actually find there? And how were the Spanish truly received? This is the forgotten story of the Taino people, the first to witness the European arrival, and the first to suffer its consequences. It was October 11, 1492. After over 2 long, uncertain months at sea, land was spotted. A sailor named Rodrigo de Triana was the first to see it. But Columbus would later claim he saw a mysterious flickering light before anyone else, like a wax candle rising and falling in the distance. He made sure his men stayed alert, promising rewards to the first one to confirm land. By 2 a.m., the cry rang out, "Tierra! Land!" The ships halted and waited for daylight. On the morning of October 12, 1492, they landed somewhere in what we now call the Bahamas. Green trees, strange fruits, parrots, and open skies greeted them. And in the shadows, behind the trees, the Taino people watched. Columbus fell to his knees and thanked God. He planted a Spanish flag and claimed the island. The Taino emerged, curious, peaceful, and generous. They offered food, gifts, and friendship. In return, the Spaniards gave trinkets, red hats, and beads. The Taino had never seen white men before. Some believed they were gods. For 2 months, Columbus searched for gold. In December 1492, while sailing east of Cuba, the Santa Maria struck a reef and was wrecked. The local chief, Guacanagari, ordered his people to help the Spaniards salvage what they could. Columbus used the wreckage to build a fort, naming it La Navidad. He left 39 men behind and returned to Spain with stories, exotic items, and kidnapped natives. When he returned in 1493, this time with 17 ships and a battalion of soldiers, La Navidad was gone. Burned to the ground. All 39 men were dead. The reason? According to survivors, the Spaniards had misbehaved, raping Taino women, stealing food, and claiming whatever they pleased. Local leaders, including one named Cayanabo, decided that gods would not act this way. So, they acted. They eliminated the Spaniards and burned the fort. Columbus vowed revenge. More forts were built. More land was claimed. Life, for the Taino, was about to collapse. What followed was a system of cruelty almost unimaginable. The Spanish forced the Taino to mine for gold. Every adult over 14 had to bring a hawk's bell full of gold every 3 months, or 25 pounds of cotton. If they failed, their hands were cut off and they were left to bleed to death. Women were enslaved. Fields were abandoned. Starvation followed. Children died. The sick were left behind. Columbus captured Cayanabo through deception and sent him to Spain. He was never heard from again. Meanwhile, the Spanish continued building fortified settlements, like La Isabela, founded in early 1494. But even as they built towns, they destroyed lives. By 1496, just 4 years after contact, the Taino population had dropped by 70%, due to hunger, labor, suicide, and disease. Even Guacanagari, the chief who had helped Columbus, died soon after. Columbus's rule became so controversial that Spanish colonists revolted against him. Accused of tyranny, Columbus and his brothers were arrested and sent back to Spain in chains. Though he was eventually freed, Columbus was never allowed to govern again. He died in 1506, a disgraced man, still believing he had found Asia. But for the Taino, the nightmare continued. Some tried to resist. One was a powerful woman, Anacaona, wife of the warrior chief Cayanabo. After Cayanabo's capture, she took leadership of the mountain Taino. In 1503, Spanish Governor Nicolas de Ovando invited her and 80 other Taino leaders to a so-called peace meeting. When they gathered, he ordered the meeting house set on fire, burning them alive. Anacaona was arrested. She was offered a pardon if she would become the concubine of a Spaniard. She refused. At age 29, Anacaona was hanged publicly, choosing death over dishonor. Another resistance leader named Cotabanama held out in the east but met a similar fate. But one young boy survived the massacre of the Taino leaders. His name was Enriquillo, son of a Taino chief and future rebel. Years later, after a Spanish official raped his wife, Enriquillo led a revolt in 1519. He fled into the mountains with thousands of followers. From there, they built a community, trained scouts, and launched guerrilla warfare. Enriquillo ordered his fighters to avoid killing unless in self-defense. Even when they captured the Spanish governor, Enriquillo spared his life. For 14 years, Enriquillo resisted, and the Spanish could not defeat him. In 1533, King Charles I of Spain signed a treaty, granting freedom to Enriquillo and his people. The last free Taino settled in the mountains. But the world around them was dying. European diseases swept through. Smallpox, measles, and influenza killed thousands who had no immunity. Slavery, starvation, and brutality took the rest. By the end of the century, the Taino were officially declared extinct. But history has a way of hiding truths. The Taino didn't vanish overnight. Some escaped. Some mixed with Africans and Spanish settlers. Their blood still runs through Caribbean veins. In Puerto Rico, Cuba, and the Dominican Republic, their memory endures, in language, in faces, in legends whispered by grandmothers. This was the beginning of colonialism, the dawn of an empire, and the twilight of an entire people. We remember the ships. We remember the sailor. But we must also remember Rodrigo de Triana, who saw the land first, and Guacanagari, who gave help, and Anacaona, who chose death with dignity, and Enriquillo, who never surrendered. This was not just discovery. It was conquest. It was not just a voyage. It was the start of centuries of silence. And this was the first chapter.